It got much more professional. Um, in the late '60s and early '70s, it was really sort of a business of young entrepreneurial individuals all around the country. There was a Steve Wolf and a Jim Rissmiller. In San Francisco, his name was Bill Graham, and New York, his name was Ron Delsner or Howard Stein. You know, in Boston, his name was Don Law. And Southeast, his name was Jack Boyle. All these guys were, you know, just sort of trailblazers in the world, and we were all promoting the same set of, you know, artists back in the early '70s. You know, be it the Jay Giles Band, 10 years after, Rory Gallagher, Jethro Tull, Humble Pie, you know, and a lot of the bands that are around today. I mean, Pink Floyd was playing Santa Monica Civic. You know, the Rolling Stones were, you know, playing the Long Beach Auditorium, and, you know, they were climbing the ladder. The Monkees and Jimi Hendrix were on the road. You know, there was, you know, just a lot of bands. So everybody was sort of going to school together, learning how this worked out. And some guys did a lot of trailblazing back there. I mean, Bill Graham, you know, owned the legendary Fillmore East, Fillmore West, you know, Winterland and venues like that, and, you know, saw the advantage of that. He was very entrepreneurial. He started a merchandise company, Winterland. You know, he had a talent agency called the Millard Agency. So he had his fingers in a lot of pies in the early going. When I say that it got more professional, it was really a situation where, you know, it's funny, we've been through the punk scene, but in the early '70s there was kind of a punk scene too, you know, but the acts would be like Grand Funk Railroad or something like that, going to the Anaheim Convention Center and being sold out, and kids were gathering around outside trying to get in and breaking windows, and, you know, riot squads getting called out. And it was a situation where the buildings didn't really appreciate the concert business to a large extent as a revenue generator. The police weren't thrilled, you know, with having to, you know, an additional thing to have to monitor, you know, or be security at. And, you know, the bands, be it some of the Jefferson Airplanes and Quicksilver Messenger Services, are anti-establishment and stuff, so they weren't, you know, very happy with having police around and stuff like that. So it was a lot of ping-ponging back and forth between, you know, opposing points of view, should we say. Frankly, the business became a more corporate business, a more business, and as buildings, you know, as new arenas got built, they saw the importance and how much revenue concerts could generate through parking and food and beverage, and not just the rent that the concert would pay, but, you know, just, you know, how their suite holders would be thrilled to have, you know, Eric Clapton playing in their building. So you know, there a lot of the independent promoters were rolled up by, you know, SFX, which became Clear Channel, which became Live Nation. The company that I used to work for, which was MCA Concerts, morphed into Universal Concerts. We had the Universal Amphitheater, and we built amphitheaters in about 8 markets, and that was sold by the Universal parent to investment bankers, and we were bolted onto the House of Blues clubs. And then I left and came over to AEG Live, but that company, House of Blues, just recently sold for $350 million. Live Nation, you know, bought that. So there's really 2 large promoters in the country now, AEG Live and Live Nation. And there's still a bunch of young independent guys making a good living doing this. And, you know, there's always a niche for, you know, entrepreneurial guys like that. I also see bands, you know, especially successful bands, you know, looking to really try to put their own records out. You know, at some point, you know, the artist community still appreciates a label's ability to market their product, and, you know, that's what gets their brand built. But I think at some point, you know, a big band, you know, a band that's really made it and is very popular, let's talk about Radiohead, U2, Rolling Stones, or something like that, you know, can probably feel that they can, at some point, do it themselves or do it in concert with, you know, a concert promoter. So I think there's some some worry on the label side that the concert promoter would enter the record business, and certainly some worry on the concert promoter side that the label would try to get into it too. So, but sort of remains to be seen, how that goes down. But at some point, talent that can sell music and can sell tickets, sell live concert tickets, wield a lot of power. That content wields a lot of power, and I think that those particular artists are taking ownership of their brand and trying to figure out how to maximize revenues themselves in that regard. And that's through their merchandise sales and possibly marketing CDs themselves. A lot of the younger bands run around with somebody that's pressed a lot of CDs for them. They're selling them out of their trunk and they're selling them at their shows. You've all seen that going on, and there's a lot of Horatio Alger going on out there, and young entrepreneurs in our business.